I cut out caffeine for 30 days and the results blew my mind. This used to be my fuel. I was easily knocking back 3 cups a day, and I genuinely believed I couldn't write an email, crush a workout, or even be a semi-decent human without it. If that sounds familiar, you might have a caffeine problem, too. But I started to wonder if this fuel was actually draining my tank. What if the very thing I relied on for energy was the reason I was so exhausted all the time? So, I decided to do something pretty radical. A 30-day, zero caffeine challenge. No coffee, no tea, no sneaky sodas, nothing. I wanted to see for myself what really happens when you quit. And what I learned completely shocked me. The changes to my sleep, my energy, and my focus were more profound than I ever could have imagined. Seriously, the results blew my mind, and I'm taking you along for the entire journey. The good, the bad, and the very ugly truth about my breakup with caffeine. Section 1. The problem and the premise. My relationship with caffeine wasn't just a habit. It felt like part of my identity. It started innocently enough, with 1 cup in the morning just to feel alive. Soon, that became 2 cups to survive the morning meetings. Before I knew it, I was hitting that 3 p.m. wall and grabbing a 3rd cup, or even an energy drink, just to make it to dinner. I loved the ritual. The smell of the beans, the warmth of the mug. It felt like I was gearing up for battle. But underneath that cozy feeling, something was off. I was constantly riding a wave of fake energy, and the crashes were getting brutal. My afternoons were a total write-off, just a foggy haze of zero motivation and a short temper. And the anxiety, man. I had this constant low-grade hum of anxiety humming in the background of my life. My heart would race for no reason. I felt jittery, on edge, and my mind would spin out over the smallest things. I blamed it on work, on stress, on literally anything but the one thing I did every single day. Then there was sleep. Or my lack of it. I'd fall into bed, completely spent, but my brain would just refuse to power down. I'd toss and turn for hours. And even when I did finally get some sleep, I'd wake up feeling like I hadn't slept at all. That groggy, hungover feeling was the very thing that made me crave that first cup of coffee so badly. It was a vicious cycle. I was tired because I wasn't sleeping, and I wasn't sleeping because of the caffeine I was chugging to not feel tired. I realized I was just borrowing energy from tomorrow at a ridiculously high interest rate. I had to know if there was a better way to live. Section 2. The struggle and the turning point. I decided to go cold turkey. No tapering off. No gentle descent. I wanted the full experience. And let me tell you, that first week was pure hell. Days 1 through 3 were all about the headache. And not just any headache, it was this relentless throbbing pressure that felt like my head was in a vice. Withdrawal symptoms can kick in about 12 to 24 hours after your last dose, and they hit me like a freight train. Along with the headache came this deep, profound fatigue. It felt like I was trying to walk through mud. My brain was wrapped in a thick fog, and trying to focus on anything was a joke. I was irritable, moody, and just not a fun person to be around. I seriously questioned this decision about a dozen times a day. So why is it so hard? I did some digging, and it all boils down to a molecule in your brain called adenosine. All day long, adenosine builds up, and when it locks into its receptors, it tells your brain it's time to rest. It's what makes you feel sleepy. Caffeine is a master of deception. It works by blocking those adenosine receptors. It doesn't give you energy, it just tricks your brain into not feeling tired. Your brain, trying to keep things in balance, responds by creating even more adenosine receptors. So when you suddenly quit, all those extra receptors are wide open, and the adenosine comes flooding in. That's what causes the monster headache and the soul-crushing fatigue. Your brain is literally rewiring itself. By days 4 to 6, things started to look up. The headache faded to a dull ache, but the brain fog was still hanging around. I still felt sluggish and unmotivated, but the worst of the physical misery was over. And I started to notice one small, amazing change. My sleep. Even though I was tired during the day, the second my head hit the pillow, I was out cold. The sleep felt deeper than it had in years. Then, around day 8 or 9, the turning point arrived. I woke up one morning before my alarm. And for the first time in I don't know how long, I didn't feel that desperate, groggy need for a chemical kickstart. The fog was finally gone. I just felt Awake. The struggle was finally paying off. Section 3. The physical results. From week 2 onward, the physical changes were wild. The absolute biggest, most life-altering change was my energy. And it was a totally different kind of energy than what I got from a coffee cup. Caffeine gives you a spike, that frantic, jittery buzz that always leads to a crash. What I started to feel was a stable, consistent energy that lasted the entire day. That 3 p.m. wall I had been running into for years? It just disappeared. I could work, exercise, and actually be present with my family in the evenings without feeling like a complete zombie. My body was finally running on its own power, and it was a total revelation. Turns out, when you stop overriding your body's natural sleep signals, it can actually manage itself pretty damn well. The second huge benefit was my sleep quality. It's one thing to say your sleep is better, but it's another to actually feel it. I wasn't just sleeping longer. The sleep itself was on another level. Without it, my body could finally cycle through its sleep stages properly. I started waking up feeling genuinely refreshed, a feeling I honestly thought was a myth. And here's one that really surprised me. My workouts got better. I always assumed I needed a pre-workout to have a good session. But without caffeine, my heart rate felt way more stable during cardio. During strength training, I felt less shaky and more in control. While caffeine is known to boost performance, for me, the constant stimulation was creating a low-level physical anxiety that was actually getting in the way. By the way, if you're finding this journey interesting, do me a quick favor and hit that like button. It makes a huge difference. And if you're into optimizing your health and productivity, make sure you subscribe to BioOptimize Lab so you don't miss what's coming next. Section 4. The mental results. The physical results were incredible, but the mental results are what really blew my mind. This is where I finally understood the true price I was paying for my caffeine dependency. The most immediate change was the near-total disappearance of my anxiety. That constant, low-level buzz of nervousness that I had just accepted as part of my personality? It vanished. Caffeine triggers your fight-or-flight response, which can lead to anxiety, nervousness, and even panic attacks. By taking away that daily trigger, my default emotional state became incredibly calm. I was less reactive to stress, more patient with people, and that constant feeling of being on edge just melted away. I felt like myself, but a calmer, more grounded version. The next thing I noticed was my focus. Sure, during that first week, my concentration was garbage. But in weeks 3 and 4, a new kind of focus showed up. It wasn't the frantic, hyper-aware state that caffeine gives you. It was a calm, sustained clarity. I could sit down and work on one thing for hours without feeling that itch to check my phone or jump to another task. My thoughts felt less scattered and more organized. I wasn't chasing a stimulant high anymore. I was just present and engaged. My productivity didn't just come back. It got better, because it was built on real clarity, not a chemical shortcut. Finally, my mood stabilized like never before. The highs weren't as high, but the lows were nowhere in sight. I didn't have the irritability from a caffeine crash or the jitters from one cup too many. My emotional state was just steady. And that consistency felt like a superpower I never knew I was missing. Section 5. The verdict and the resolution. So, after 30 days, the big questions. Was it worth it? And will I ever go back? The answer to the first question is a definite, 100% yes. This experiment was one of the best things I've ever done for my health. It forced me to see that I was just using caffeine as a band-aid for bad sleep and a high-stress lifestyle. It wasn't giving me energy, it was putting me in energy debt, and I was finally clawing my way out. The person I became by the end of these 30 days, calmer, better rested, and more focused, is a version of myself I plan on keeping around. As for the second question, my future with caffeine is going to look very different. I am never going back to being a daily, mindless user. I've broken the dependency, and the freedom that comes with that is just too valuable to give up. I don't need it to function anymore. However, I might reintroduce it, but in a very deliberate way. Not as a crutch, but maybe as an occasional tool or something to be savored for the taste, like a weekend espresso. The difference now is that I'm in control, not the substance. Knowing I can wake up and feel fantastic without it has completely changed the game. The goal was never just to quit coffee, it was to reclaim my own natural energy, And I can definitely say I've done that. This 30-day journey ended up being about so much more than coffee. It was about tearing down a system I had built that was keeping me tired and anxious. The raw truth is that while that first week is brutal, the benefits on the other side are absolutely life-changing. Stable energy, deep sleep, and mental clarity aren't things you should need a substance for. They're your birthright. Now, I'm really curious to hear from you. Are you thinking about quitting? Have you tried it before? Drop your story in the comments below. Let's talk about it. If this video helped you out, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to BioOptimize Lab. And don't forget to share this with someone who you think needs to hear it. Thanks for watching.